Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am Senior AC Simon from the North England Conference, and today I'm going to bring you a presentation for the Cat's Honour. Now, a little bit about me. So I work within the North England Conference. I'm an avid Pathfinder fan. Oh, I love Pathfinders. I've been in it for many, many, many years. And I've gone through, just like you guys will have gone through, all the different ranks, companion guide, master guide, etc. And I also participated as well in many of the honours that you will be or have been participating over this time in this project. A little bit about me as well. I'm a mathematician as well. An entrepreneur. I love business. I love to help our church as well, especially in projects just as this with our Pastor Dayon. What I was going to show you actually is, my cat's just fallen asleep, so I don't want to disturb them too much, but I'm going to try and turn around and give you a little glimpse of my cat that I have here. Just one moment.
Let's see the cat. Is it, Simon, true the cats sleep 80% of their life?
Oh. This is Yasmin, and this is my cat. So I'll be telling you just a little bit about my cat in the presentation. Okay. So that's a little bit about me. And now we're going to move on to your Cat's Honour. Now let's see the hands of all of those who have cats.
All right, so if you guys have a cat, put it in the comment.
Just wave your hand.
Yeah, or you can wave the hand, but we would like to see in the comments as well. If you have a cat, please say yes. Yeah, and wave at the same time. Okay, we have a one. So just for those who have cats, just to say yes. Somebody has 3 cats. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 people which have cats in a Zoom room. Let me make sure, Simon, how many? Oh, we have 2 of them, so the number increased. So that's about 8, 9. Okay, 9
so
cats.
We've got a few people. Yes.
Oh, we have about 12 cats in the Zoom room. Many people are saying, I wish I have a cat. But let me just see on the Facebook Live what is happening here. Do we have a link at all? Yes, we do. We have some people who have cats. Yeah, Simon, quite a few people have cats.
That's amazing. Well done, all of you who have cats. I hope you've been looked after your cat during this time and playing with them, and enjoying and watching them sleep and feeding them, because they are great pets to have. So quickly moving on into our Cat's Honours presentation. Okay. What we're going to cover today are just basically 5 areas that will cover the 12 topics that you're going to look at in your honour. Firstly, we're going to look at an overview into the introduction of cats, looking at their characteristics and the things that they share with the rest of the other species. As well as that, we're going to look at the domestic cats that we use for the purposes of pets, like my cat Yasmin. We're also going to look at some of the commonly placed wild cats that we see around the world, as well as the king of cats. And who are the king of cats? And finally, we're going to finish with the cats that we also can find in the Bible, some of the stories that we find there. Okay?
Simon, before you go on with the presentation, there was some problem with the connectivity on the Facebook, and quite a few people were not able to see the presentation. So if it's possible, give me a second. I'm just pressing right now. We're going to go Facebook Live. Actually, I just pressed go live. So if it's possible, Simon, just rewind these last few moments. But I will tell you when. I do apologize to everybody.
That's okay. That's all right. I can go back. So I'll go back to the beginning of the presentation.
Yes, let's do that, Simon. Excellent, Simon. We again on the Facebook. We don't know what happened, but we heard that there was a problem with you not being able to see the presentation, but you were able to hear. So, Simon, if you just start again for all of us, that'd be great. Thank you, Simon.
Okay.
Yep, you can go, Simon.
Okay. Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cat's Honour. I'm Simon Face, your presenter for today. And we're going to go through a few aspects that will cover the requirements for you to complete the Cat's Honour. Okay? So, first of all, we are going to look at an overview. And today we're going to cover the areas of an introduction to cats, looking at the characteristics that they share against the rest of the species. The domestic cats, cats that we usually keep for purposes of pets. I showed my cat Yasmin just a moment ago. There is also a picture in the presentation, so you'll get to see that too. Also, we'll look at wild cats and where they're commonly placed across the world, as well as who's the king of the cats. And then lastly, we will look at cats in the Bible and where can we find them in regards to Bible stories. Okay, so before we continue, I hope you've got your worksheets out. You may be able to download it off the presentation, but alternatively, you should have been able to download it before. So all of those who have got your presentation worksheets ready for your honor, please just indicate yes. Tejon, if you can check.
At the same time, I will be posting the link as well. So in case you don't have it, just make sure that you click on the link. It's at the BC website, which has the majority of you probably do have it, and that's beautiful.
Excellent, excellent. So as time is moving, what we're going to do is look at a few things, subtopics that we're going to review as a part of the honour requirements. Now, you will see on the worksheets that we need to cover a few areas. These areas are, what's things such as the scientific names of the cat families, the structure of the paws, similar to all cats, and how are the eyes of the cats alike. Another thing is, what type of things do cats eat? What is the food of the cat family, and how their teeth fitted as well as their whiskers? And how can we look at the cat's ears and how are they protected? We're also going to do a bit of observation work. Well, I've got some pictures so you can view at some of the kind of domestic cats that we have, as well as, the benefits of kinds that they are to us, and also identified some of the wild cats, or as I call them, the big cats. And then before we come to the end, we're going to also look at the titles of Cats, the King of Beasts. Also, we're going to have a special story read by one of our other senior ACs in the North England Conference, and she's going to tell you the story of Androcles and the lion. And then finally, we will look at some of the Bible texts. So that's just to reiterate what we're going to cover through the honour. So let's start with my cat. This is my cat. My cat is called Yasmin, and it's a picture I took earlier on. Yasmin is now 2 years old. She is a pure breed and she likes to be in the outdoors. She also likes to bring things back from outside. She loves her food, especially wet food, not so much dry food. I was actually going to demonstrate by giving her a little bit of a treat, but she's fallen asleep, so never mind. Also, another interesting thing is that Yasmin's also one of 2 cats. She also has a brother, and more importantly, she is a rescue cat. So interesting features that she has, which we'll cover as a part of it, is she has one layer of fur, a thick layer of fur, and a very, very distinctive tail, as you can see, and right down at the bottom under her resting place. It's also a very, very fluffy tail. And on the underside, she has quite a lot of thick fur and tufty feet, meaning she has fur on her feet. So she is a Turkish Angoran, and this is my cat. Now moving on to our requirements. So the systematic classification of cats, an introduction to cats. So for those who know, taxonomy. Taxonomy allows us to look at the different categories and species of cats. And as you can see here, Those who have done the reptile honours well will know that taxonomy is based on the basic system that classifies all living things on Earth, branched and encompassed into their descriptions, their identification, their nomenclature, and also the classifications of their organisms. So what we can see here in the classifications is we have the domain, we have the kingdom, we have the phylum, the class, the order, the family, the genus, and the species. Now notice there are also subcategories of these main categories. So for instance, the family has subfamilies and the order has suborders also. So I hope you're taking notes on your worksheet as we are going through this. So the first one we're going to look at is domain, and notice the bigger the category, the bigger the representation of the species. And here we go, you can see them in size order from domain right down to species. So the domain, in the domain we have, it's the largest category, and it has three core elements. One which is bacteria, archaea, and eukarya, which is classified and is classifying all the organisms on the Earth. Now we can probably guess where cats fall under. Does anyone know? If you know, can you put your comment in the comment box?
Yeah, let's do that.
Which cats do you think fall under which of the categories?
All right, it's a quite large, big question, so it might be hard for them to type it quickly. Are you able to maybe narrow the question?
Okay, so it's going to be one of the three that we can see on the presentation in front of us. Shall I give you a few hints as we narrow it down? So bacteria is very, very small, isn't it? It's very tiny, so we're not going to see that cats will be in that category. What about archaea? It's also very, very small, like microscopic. So that means we're actually left with eukarya, where we can see animals exist within this part of the domain, or within the elements of this domain. So cats fit into this element of the domain.
Thank you, everybody, for your comments. And Simon, thank you so much for guiding.
As you can see, this is where the cats fit. Now, moving on, we also have the category of the kingdom. So we have Plante, we have Monora. Let's see, who thinks, which ones do cats fit into? It should be very obvious from this one. Let's see your comments. Based upon the different types. Well, we can see some answers coming through, and it seems, yes, correct. The cat will fit in the kingdom of the Animalia. That's correct. So let's look just very briefly at the core groups. Next, we have the kingdoms. And in the kingdoms category, we can see cats fall under Animalia section. And we can see the kingdom of protest, the kingdom of Moneron, the kingdom of animals too. So what is the next category here? The next category is actually phylum. So in the phylum category, we can see that we have differences, different types. There are actually 9 major animal phyla related to the phylum category. But out of all of these, the cat actually fits into this category, the Chordata. So have you got a note of that? For those who are on your worksheets, this is the category that the cats fit into in regards to the phylum. Now, next in the kingdom, we also have the Chordata. They have very, very basic traits. They have a mouth and an anus. which is their inner tube, which processes food, and inner mouth. We also have the notochord, which is basically the prespinal nerves in the spine of the animals. So all animals in the chorus shares these features. It's very, very important. We also come to the next class, and this class separates all of the category classes into the core dates, which we can see the following. So we have birds, we have mammals, we have amphibians, we have reptiles. Now, interestingly enough, in the classes, what we notice is some of the classes of the organisms you probably will not recognise. And that's because, well, some of them now are not. They're basically extinct. So what you may recognise is, for instance, the amphibians, the reptiles, the birds, the mammals, and so forth. But you may not recognise the amphibians, the scalps, the larvaceans, the hagfish, as their days are now numbered and they're basically extinct. Okay, so these are some of the core dates quick references that we have in relations to the class category. Now, moving on to the next, we also have the order. Now, following the class and the order category, cats fall into which order? It is the carnivora order. This is just a few of some of the names that you can see here, such as the Chiroptera and the Philodota, okay? So the cats fit into the carnivora within the order. Another thing that is finally interesting is down to the families. So the final category before we look at the families, that we have 3 types of families, which includes the Mustelidae, the Felidae, and the Carnidae. Can anyone tell me which the cat family sits into? Let's see your comments in the box.
Yep, we're starting.
What answers are we getting?
Are you able to see the chat, the comments, Simon?
Not at this moment in time.
Okay, okay.
So if you have written Felidae, you would be correct.
And that's right. I think the majority did click. Did put that as a comment. Yeah.
Excellent. So, for example, another animal species that you all know well is dogs, and which the dogs would actually fit in within those 3 families would be the Carnidae. Okay, so interestingly, you have the cats in the Felidae and the dogs in the Carnidae, a bit like as you can see. So going into a little bit more detail, we can look at the order, the family genes, and then the species. So there are different families. These are all linked to their corresponding organisms, which contain them within their related families. So as we can see, for instance, the cats, they're in the Felidae, and we can see a picture of a panther, which is one of the cats that sits within the cat's family. We can also see a part of the other 3 families. That there is the Mustelidae, and it looks, yes, it's the Taxidae there that we can see. We can see an animal. Can't quite make out what it is in that one, however. And then we can see a dog in the Carnidae in the 3rd family. Okay, so they are the families and the species that we would find within that order. So that concludes the first section that is required for our honour. Okay, now we're going to move into a little more information about cats and the types of traits that they may have. So what are the types of traits that cats have? My cat's very furry, but it also has feet, and within its feet, it also has paws. So let's take a look at, for instance, the paw structure. what we will notice in the paw structure is that they have a forelimb and a hind limb. Can anyone tell me how many of the paws you can see on the forelimb? Let's see your comments in the box. You might have to look very, very closely.
So the comments are coming in, and a number that is coming in is number 7.
Oh, look a little closer, actually. So, do we have any other numbers?
Somebody just said 8.
Okay, okay, so we are actually a little bit out. Well, actually, the number is 5. So you will see you have 4 on the top of the forelimb and the hind limb. You can see them, 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But we also have down on the forelimb, we have the 5th. Okay, so the hind limb has 4 paw toes and the forelimb has 5 paw toes. This is a very common trait that we find within all cats within the Felidae family. Okay. We also have claws. Now, another interesting thing about claws is that they are retractable. And you can actually see a cross section. We've got a picture here which shows both the drawn in claw and the exposed claw. So first, the drawn in claw, it looks very, very reserved. It's held back and it's inside the toe, isn't it? Whereby the second, which shows the exposed claw, it has a great ability that cats have where they like to, they're able to draw in and out and expose their claw. So it's a great ability that they have to bring it in and to push it back out again. Interestingly enough, there is a film that you probably have seen, if you have seen it, called Wolverine, where he has the ability to do that too, where his claws come out and also retracts, and then he also redraws. So the second trait that we're going to look at is the eye structure. Now, the cat's eyes is very, very, very complex. You'll find that they have basically 2 muscles, which are called the ciliary body. Okay? And within the ciliary body, they have body muscles. You'll find out that it allows them to change the shape of their pupils so they're able to see with great length. Another interesting fact is that cats' pupils are very wide and open in the dark. They're able to contract and to slit also when exposed to the light. Also, the back of their eyes is very coated with a reflecting surface. And in low light levels, the cat pupils must be able to open very, very wide as possible so that they're able to contract into a very small size to protect themselves from sensitive bright sunlight. It's quite different to the human eye. Their sizes variation in their pupils is controlled by circulatory ciliary muscles. And also, what is interesting is the limits that the amount of their size is varied. So cats, however, they possess the control of 2, a shutter-like ciliary muscle, which gives the cat the characteristic to slit, like pupils in bright light conditions, but also all cats have pupils that therefore are elliptical. Okay? So this is quite an important point that you should make. And also, they also appear sometimes circular when dilated. All right? So, the third trait that we're going to look at is also cats' diets. So tell me in the comments, what type of foods do you see cats like to eat? My cat's a very, very hungry cat and is always wanting to eat.
Somebody said they like to eat cucumbers.
Oh, cucumbers, very interesting.
It's
Very interesting.
somebody was joking. They're saying fish, meat, chicken.
Yes, fish indeed.
They probably like to eat some rats and stuff. So mainly it's turning around fish and meat. Well, meat, and when it comes to different types of meat.
Excellent. So that is correct. Cats absolutely love food and they love to eat meat. That is one of their main sources of food. They do like some dry food. They also do like wet food. They do like fish. They do like meat. They do like dry meat sticks as well. But meat is really their main source of food. They also have 4 front teeth, which you can see in the picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, which tend to be quite sharp and edgy. And it can cut through skins and muscles. It helps them to eat better. I know my cat Yasmin loves her wet meat and also her dry meat, but when she does, she really claws into them and digs deep to chew through that meat. They also have, cats also have 4 front canine teeth, and it's mainly for kind of biting and tearing up like a knife edge to cutting through the skins and muscles of the food that they're eating. Now, my cat doesn't necessarily like cucumbers, but I can tell you she does love salmon. She's...
Can you please answer one question, which I think is very important? Somebody said, is it true the cats actually don't eat rats, but they just chase them away, or do they eat them?
Well, they like to kind of chase them and kill them. Not necessarily eat them as such, because, you know, cats, I mean, rats do tend to carry around all kinds of bad diseases and other things. So not necessarily eat them, but they will kill them.
Thank you, Simon. So just to make a point at the moment when it comes to chats, make sure that you use it for the questions and questions only. At the same time, no question is less important. So don't worry. You just post there for all the users of chat. We just want to ask you to be respectful towards each other, because we all want to learn and we all want to get this honor in the end. So just keep posting questions and don't worry.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next trait. And one of the traits that we're going to look at is the whiskers. Now, as you can see here, we've got the upper teeth. We've got, in the whiskers, we've got the lower teeth as well. And you can see the whiskers here are very, very, very long. Now, as a part of the main food, before we continue with the whiskers, is that the whiskers are connected and they're very, very sensitive. You see, they act like extra fingers. So we have hands and we have fingers, but they have whiskers. And they use it for feeling things. They also use it as a special kind of sensory hair group to locate things, which is obviously a part of their very special unique talent. Also, you will find that as a part of their whiskers, they have the superciliary whiskers, which are positioned above the eyes. They also have the genal whiskers, which are to the rear of the cat, and the cat's cheeks area, which they're very kind of mystical whiskers. And they also have the longest and most prominent are the kind of muzzle whiskers on the cat's muzzle, and so the mystical whiskers on the cat's muzzle. As well as that, it is believed that there is a link between the sensory and the visual input of the cat, so that the degree of the parallel processing links to the brain. Now, that's a very interesting fact. As well as that, regarding to the whiskers, they are very, very, very sensitive elements of hair. And they can register very, very, very small changes, and even to the point of recognizing the change in air pressure. It helps them to also avoid objects, especially while moving in the dark. And at the same time, it helps them to establish their position when dealing with prey. Okay? Interestingly enough, a bigger cat such as a cheetah may mainly hunt through the day, and we'll talk about cheetahs later on, but their whiskers are very, very developed, particularly for hunting within the night. Now, cats are, and another interesting fact about cats related to their whiskers, that 90% of their whiskers are based on their head, whilst when they are walking around, they tend to tilt forward in order to aid that sensibility. Okay. Now, another thing is their ears. Cats have very, very, very interesting ears, and they are placed on the top of the head, whereby it allows them to, well, the interesting thing about their ears is that inside their ears, it allows them to catch debris, okay? And also, their ears can fold up and down, flat. So I know my cat's ears, they fall down flat, and they're always twitching to any little piece of sound that is very, very sensitive. Okay. Now, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is we're going to look at the 5 types of domestic cats that there are. Now, I haven't put up the names at this moment in time, but I'm going to explain to you what they are, and we're going to go through the pictures of them.
Simon,
So, hello.
One question came through on Facebook talking about domestic cats. Maybe
Yes.
you're able to give us an answer, maybe not, but it's not a problem if you don't have it. Simon, can you tell us why some people have allergies on cats?
Allergies. That's a very, very interesting issue. What I might do is we can talk about that at the end. So I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the presentation. Just bear with us a moment. And I've made a note to answer that question towards the end of the presentation regarding the allergies, why some people have them. To be fair, I had a slight allergy at a younger age to cats, but that has eventually gone away. So moving back onto the 5 types of the domestic cats that we have, okay? So in the very, very top left-hand corner, we can see here is the Abyssinianas, which is distinctly ticked as which has a tawny coat. It is a very large almond-shaped cat, okay, with green or gold eyes, with a fine dark line around them, okay? It also has very, very large ears, okay? That's a very interesting cat. The cat also is very generally warming and generally a golden color at the same time. Some of the times we refer to it as the Abyss cat, okay? And an interesting thing about this cat is that it is very, very active. It is also very, very friendly. It's curious and it's very, very playful as well. It's one that doesn't normally sit in your lap, but it will tend to explore and play and always act very, very busy. It also has quite a height, and it likes to explore its surroundings and dimensions. It likes to go through the owner's house or on the shoulder or climb up on lots of different pieces of furniture. At the same time, it is a medium-sized to large-sized cat, and it has very, very strong and powerful paws. And its muzzles tend to be quite squarish. At the same time, they are long-living, and they also share quite an interesting family member with the dogs. Okay, so that's one interesting fact about this cat. What we also have. We also have the second picture, which refers to, just one moment. the second picture, which refers to the American short-haired cat.
Simon, you stop sharing the screen so we don't see anything anymore.
Oh, bear with us a moment. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. No problem at all.
Oh, share screen.
Also, Simon, because maybe we start a little bit later, we probably have about maybe 15-20 minutes time.
That's all right. That's okay. So in the second picture, we also have the American short-haired cat, and that's a very, very popular cat. It's most prevalently found, or its most prevalent breed is the American cat, as known to others. Their muzzles are also very squarish. The third picture that we can see next to it is the Egyptian moose, and it's kind of a medium-sized short-haired cat breed. It's quite common, and it's a happy cat. It tends to wiggle its tail a lot, and as well as that, it tends to move its legs up and down, and it's one that likes to mark its territory. The fourth picture we have here is the exotic and has a compact, rounded, powerful body where it has a thick, short neck and it has very large, rounded eyes, as you can see. It has a sweet facial expression and it always tends to generally look quite cute and it looks a little bit like a teddy bear in some cases. We also have the Maine Coon. On the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the bright white cat. Now, the Maine Coon is a breed which is distinguished as an intelligent, dexterous, and very playful cat. And it has tendencies to use its front paws quite extensively. At the same time, they like to dip into toys with their water bowls, and they like to play with them. At the same time, they also like to play games such as fetch, which is quite interesting. A similar trait that you will notice with dogs. Next to that, you have a Persian cat. And the Persian cat seems to have very extremely thick coated hair. And at the same time, it has very, very short legs and has quite large eyes. They tend to spend a lot of their time just kind of muzzling around, hanging around, and being quite easygoing, lazy kind of cats. And then you might notice next to that is the Russian blue, which is also a medium short cat. And it has a kind of bluish grayish diluted kind of expression. And finally, the Siamese cat, which has a creamy base coat and is color pointed on their muzzle. So that is the different types of domestic cats that we have. Okay. So benefits to mankind. What we can say about the benefits to mankind is that the cats seem to, they like to catch mice and provide friendships. They're also used a lot to protect silkworms and cocoons from rats. And in addition to that, we can find a lot of them based in China and Japan. You can see the rodent control and also a picture of a man with his cat where he's built a friendship with them. Now we have a few more things to go through to complete the requirements. The next thing is looking at the big cats. As we looked at the taxonomy, you can see that the big cats also fit within the Felidae domain. And we're going to go through a few of them. So the caracal cat is one that is very interesting. It's one that is distributed over Africa and West Asia. And they tend to have a habit where they're found in the semi-desert deserts, but at the same time also found within woodland areas, in the savanna and the scrub forest areas. You tend to find they are very territorial cats. You will find them generally in pairs. So this is one of the type of cats, big cats that you will find. Okay. Another one that you will need to note down is a cheetah. Now, commonly we will find a cheetah in the sub-Saharan areas such as in Africa. And there are a few still around seen today, as we're aware, in places like Iran. But they're generally found in places like India, parts of East Africa, because of the type of semi-deserts that there are, such as the savannas, the prairies, and the thick bushes. And they love to hunt, and they generally hunt at speed. Another one we have is the jaguar. So the jaguar is generally a South American-based cat that tends to live within the rainforests, and at the same time is based within South and Central America. They are very, very strong swimmers and great climbers, and they are often preferred to live near the rivers and in swamped areas, as well as dense, thick forests where they're able to stalk their prey. Okay. There's the leopard, which we can generally find mainly across most of the world, but you mainly find them in places like South and Central America, parts of South and East Africa, as well as the areas of Asia. And they also tend to stalk their prey, but they're very, very lively, and they like to migrate in warm areas. You will recognize this one. This big cat is mainly found in South Africa, and it is the king of the jungle. It is the lion. It loves the grassy plains, and it also is one that we could say is one of the ancient time kings, the ancient lion. They are commonly found in mainly Central and Southern Africa, but many people will have traveled across the world and found them also. Not in the best places, which are zoos, but they should be kept in the wild. We have a few more, and this is the lynx. It's also across the world, and the interesting thing about the lynx is that there are 4 types of species here, and they're quite widespread. The interesting and the most interesting thing is that out of these 4 different types, the bobcat is the smallest of the lynx, and they do tend to mainly hunt for small prey within their habitats. We have the ocelot, and that is generally found in South America and Central America. In the United States, where there are 11 different types of their species, okay? And they tend to live in kind of wide open areas. They're not as big as some of the other cats, but they're also very, very good hunters. We have the puma, which is also found in South America, but at the same time, we tend to find it in parts of Northern America. Across the west side, in places such as British Columbia, and also the Andes mountain ranges. We'll also find them in parts of Florida and other areas, such as the Catamount Mountains, where you'll also find cougars and panthers too. So these are just some of the cats that you will find across the world, as well as finally the cervelle, which lives in the savanna of Africa. It's a medium-sized cat, and it's a great swimmer. It likes to take control. It's a great hunter for fish, and it's very good at swiping birds to stop them to eat. Tigers. Everybody knows a tiger, and these days you tend to find tigers in places like India, China, Nepal. They are great hunters, and they have a huge growl. You'll also find them in places such as Laos, Malaysia, and Myanmar. Okay, so those who have seen them at the zoos, they are very powerful and awesome animals. So wildcats tend to live in the forest of Western and Central and Eastern parts of Europe. They are very, very interesting types of cats. You can also find them in parts of the African wild, mainly in the deserts and the savannas. They are generally known as the Asiatic wild cat. and tend to scrub around in the deserts. So as we're coming to the last few points of our requirements, can anyone tell me what animal is known as the king of the beast, and what does that title mean to them?
All right, the question is there. So let's hear that. Can you repeat the question again, Simon?
So the question again is, what animal is known as the king of the beast? Why does it have that title? And what is its temperament really like?
All right, so the question is there. Many people already wrote. Pathfinders are very fast. Well, they're saying it's lion, and they're saying it because he's very strong.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. The lion is the king. He is the king, and he is distinguished. So the king of the beast, as it's also known. They often tend to form coalitions. This is one very interesting fact about lions. And they tend to, well, I'll give you a little more information. Lions tend to be quite distinguished because they're also quite loyal, okay? But not always loyal. I'll tell you why. They're not always loyal because the males particularly are ones that like to show their pride and their power, and in most cases to overtake the male that may exist within the king of a pack. So they tend to go into kind of a battle. Why? This is to take over the pack. And when they succeed in doing so, the really sad thing is they tend to kill the cubs. And this is all a matter of pride. Why? So that they can, stimulate the females for breeding and reproductive purposes. Also, the females then will tend to be, in some respects, become rather defenseless. So they're not always loyal, especially in a case like this, but they are loyal to each other when they're hunting in packs and looking after each other, as they are considered the kings and the beasts of the jungle. So we have just a few points before we have covered all of our honours, and based upon time, we don't have too much time, but we are going to cover the story of Androcles and the lion, and our special guest is going to read this story to you. I introduce Senior AC Hyacinth, also from the NEC, from Area 3.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Well, now I'm going to quickly tell the story due to time, okay? The story is told of a young man by the name of Androcles. He was a Roman slave, and he escaped from his master and fled into the forest. While he was wandering through the forest, he was there all day. It got very dark, and he was tired, he was hungry, he was scared, he was quite despair, he didn't know what to do, he didn't have a shelter. But then, as it got late in the night, he heard a sound. It was a moaning, a growling. And this growl, it was roaring. It was the sound of a lion. And it was terrifying. Androcles, he tried to run away, as he thought he could run from a lion. But then as he made his way through the forest, he stumbled and fell over and hurt his leg. When he tried to get up, he saw the lion coming towards him. But the lion was limping and holding his front paws. Androcles was in despair. He had no strength to get up and run away. And there the lion was coming towards him. But when the great beast came up to him, instead of attacking him to eat him, he came up and he was limping. He was holding his right paws. Androcles noticed that it was covered with blood, and it was really swollen. Looking closely, he saw that a thorn, a big thorn, was pressed into the lion's paws, and he was in terrible pain. He picked up courage now. It was swollen, it was bleeding, and he picked up courage to try and go near the lion. And then he slowly went and he got all of the lion paws, and he saw the big thorn, and he pulled the thorn out, and the lion screamed, and slowly he felt relief. Now that formed some sort of bond now with this lion and Androcles, because while he was in the forest, the lion, when he caught his prey, he was bringing some food, such as a deer, to share with Androcles. And he would make a meal from it. And then whatever he killed, he brought some for Androcles. Sadly, one day, the soldiers was marching through the forest and found Androcles. As he couldn't explain why he had run away to the soldiers. They took him as prisoner and brought him back to the town. Here, his master soon found him and brought him before the authority. And poor Androcles, he was condemned to death. Now, in those days, it was the custom to throw murderers and criminals to the lion. And they had these huge circus where they would make it a spectacle. Now, Androcles was put in prison. And so on the day that it was ready for him to go before this spectacle, all the people gathered in the arena, and the emperor came out and sat. And he signaled now for them to release the lion and gave Androcles a small spear to protect himself. When the lion came out of the cage and got close to Androcles, he went nearer. Instead of jumping to kill him, he went up close and used his paws and touched him and made no attempt to harm him. It was, of course, the lion which Androcles had met in the forest. The emperor was surprised and wanted to know what was going on, because this beast is the king of the jungle and he should attacked and killed, do what he does. But in despair, the emperor called Androcles and asked him, what's going on here? And he told him the story of what happened in the forest and how the lion had helped him. Therefore, the emperor pardoned Androcles and ordered his masters to set him free, while the lion was taken back into the forest and let loose to enjoy his liberty and the rest of his wildlife. Pathfinder, when we're going through problems and difficulty, remember, of course, that we have Jesus who can set us free. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that beautiful story. Thank you, thank you.
Welcome.
So we thank you, Senior AC Hyson, for your story of Androcles and the lion. Now we have a very last requirement that we're going to look at, which is very important. So guys, the stories, where can we find stories in the Bible? I've given you a list here of stories that we can find in the Bible about cats. You'll probably recognize some of them. Some of them may be, one of them is Samson and the lion. So we know the story of Samson and the lion, which can be found in Judges 14, okay, where he talks about where he was moving from one town to the other, and he came in contact with a lion, and he fought the lion, and he beat the lion. And then eventually, some time later, as he traveled back, and he saw the lion's carcass, and he ate the honey from the lion. And then he told the story about how honey and strength and just how amazing he was. As well as that, there are other stories that we can find within the Bible that talks about Daniel and the lion's den. So we all know that story, don't we? Is that correct? Yes, I can see heads nodding. So there are, and there are some other ones we can find also in Daniel chapter 7. It talks about Daniel's dream of the lion with the wings and the leopard with the 4 heads. And another one is within Isaiah, where he talks about what it will be like in heaven, where the calf and the lion will lie down together in heaven in harmony. So these are some of the stories that I advise you need to learn and remind yourself as stories where we can find cats in the Bible. So guys, this brings us actually to the end of our honor, and your honor is now complete. So thank you for participating. But just before we finish, there was a question that was asked to me as well, wasn't it? About people being allergic to cats. So I did make note about that. And what I will say is that not all people are allergic to cats. Some may be, but it generally tends to be because of the proteins in their saliva or their urine, which is actually quite dangerous, such as the dry flakes on your skin, etc. And that's what causes the allergies. At the same time, you can get allergies by a few different things. Not allowing your cat to sleep on the bed and to keep them out of the bedroom. So that's a way where you can also prevent getting allergies. Another thing you should do is make sure you wash things like your bedding on high temperature if you have a cat. So all of those who have a cat, make sure you wash your bedding and other things with high temperature so it doesn't leave all the fur and all the bits on them. And also, what do cats do? They tend to shed hair everywhere. And I know my cat sheds hair everywhere. I'm constantly hoovering up behind him, to the point where he thinks the hoover's his friend. So, guys, you'll have to hoover frequently. So that's some of the things we can add in allergies. And thank you very much.
Just one more question, which was asked in the middle, which simply asked, does the jaguar or leopard have a stronger bite than the lion? Would you know that?
That's an interesting one, actually. To be honest, off the top of my head, I don't know the answer, but I'm sure both bites are going to be very, very harsh, and they're going to tear through flesh and skin very, very easily.
That's fine, Simon. Simon, big thank you for your time, and thank you so much for your mom's time as well. And we want to just give you a big clap, guys, if that's all right. I'm going to unmute everybody. Well, I'm going to allow you to participants to unmute themselves. So, guys, let's give a big clap. Yeah? Simon, thank you so much.